Hey, what is going on guys? RekSai Stealth here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at some of the best off-meta, sleeper OP, or just underplayed things so far in patch 8.16 that you should be looking to try out. Now this video is going to be sponsored by FaceCheck. If you guys have yet to check out FaceCheck, it's a really great app that's going to give you a ton of information in-game and out of game. When you're in-game, you can get information on the enemy's rank, their KDA, how many games they have, what runes they're using. You can also get recommended build paths and counter tips for your matchup. And then when you are out of game, you can compare yourself to other players in your elo and see what you need to do to improve. The app is built into the client as well, so you don't have to tab out to use it. This is a really great feature in my opinion because you can just save a lot of time when you're in game and you don't have to be tabbing out, wasting time, and going on to different websites. So there is going to be a link down in the description below to download FaceCheck for free, and thanks in advance guys if you do decide to check it out. So if we get into the video now, a lot of the new setups and champions that are popping up in this patch are kind of due to the recent nerfs to runes in 8.16. With nerfs to a lot of the damage runes, it's making tankier champions and champions that can use tankier runes a little bit stronger here in 8.16. So the first champion we're going to take a look at, and this is more so of a different setup for the champion in this patch, and it's Aftershock Pantheon. So Aftershock Pantheon is actually something that the #1 Pantheon player in NA, Keegan, has been running for quite a while now. It's gotten even better though here in 8.16 because Electrocute did get hit with a nerf, Airy also did get hit with a nerf, and those were the two main runes that Pantheon players would usually run on him. So Aftershock now in this patch does get stronger. It's very strong on Pantheon because it's super easy to proc. You guarantee proc it when you do hit your W, so it allows you to trade really nicely in the laning phase, and it also does make up for some of Pantheon's weaknesses in the mid to late game. Pantheon's early game is already really strong no matter really the rune he takes, so by going Aftershock, it does allow you to be a little bit more tankier in mid to late game team fights, and it does allow you to be more useful there when you do start falling off a little bit in the mid to late game. So next up here is going to be Maokai as well as Nautilus top lane. We'll talk about both these champions at once here because these are two tanks in the top lane that have gotten quite a bit stronger in 8.16. So the setup that a lot of players are running on these two top laners right now is they're starting Corrupting Potion. For runes, they're taking Biscuit Delivery and Time Warp Tonic. For Inspiration Secondary, and you can also on your first back go for something like Dark Seal, and the amount of sustain you have in lane with these like AP tank top laners is really good for this patch. With the nerfs to damage runes in this patch, and if you do take this setup on Maokai and Nautilus, they can actually have pretty solid laning phases, and there's not a ton of champions right now that can really hard bully them in the laning phase if you do run this setup. So in my opinion, because Maokai and Nautilus are a lot less exploitable now with this new setup and with the rune nerfs, you can actually have some good success with them in solo queue. If you're a top lane player, then I definitely recommend adding one of these two champions to your champion pool for this patch because there's definitely going to be some situations to where if you can round out your team comp with a Maokai or a Nautilus, then you're going to have a lot more success than if you were playing a bruiser or a carry top laner. So for junglers in 8.16, with the Electrocute nerfs in this patch, a lot of junglers have now swapped over to Dark Harvest. I did make a separate video on this going into detail as to why Dark Harvest is better than Electrocute and which champions it works best on, so you can take a look at that video. I'll link it in the right hand corner of the screen here, but basically a TLDR of the video and of the changes is that pretty much every jungler that ran Electrocute in previous patches can now run Dark Harvest in 8.16. So if we take a look at some other junglers here that are doing a lot better in 8.16, the first one is Rammus. So Rammus did get indirectly and directly buffed in 8.16. So he got indirectly buffed because of the changes to runes. Rammus did not take any of the runes that got nerfed in this patch. So because other junglers do get nerfed because of those changes, Rammus does get stronger. And he also did get a direct buff in this patch. He got a buff to his W, which does make him tankier now. So overall in 8.16, if you're looking for a tank in the jungle, then Rammus, in my opinion, should be your #1 pick in this patch. Now, one thing to note for the ability maxing on Rammus, when I was taking a look and doing research for this video, most high elo and like one trick Rammus players, they do max their Q out first instead of E. I've pretty much always just maxed my E out first on Rammus, and I've kind of just defaulted to that because of the taunt duration increase. But Q max, it actually puts your Q on a super short cooldown. It goes from 16 seconds down to 6 seconds at rank 5, and if you get a little bit of CDR in your build there, then your Q is just on a super short cooldown. So if you have yet to try maxing your Q out first on Rammus, then it's what most high elo Rammus players do, so I definitely recommend trying it out. So for RekSai in 8.16 here, with the nerfs to Electrocute, Hail of Blades is starting to take over as the #1 keystone rune on her. The #1 RekSai player, or the most played RekSai player in NA, is running Hail of Blades exclusively right now on RekSai. A lot of players still do run Press the Attack, and it is still a very good option on RekSai for this patch, but if you are playing RekSai right now, either Hail of Blades or Press the Attack is what you should be running. I would stay away from Electrocute now after the nerfs it did get in this patch. So Predator junglers have been on the rise here in this patch and even in last patch as well. With the Electrocute nerfs, it does indirectly make these Predator junglers stronger. Right now, Olaf, Hecarim, and Gragas are the three that are being played the most in higher elos and by pros in this patch. Now, I think it's pretty self-explanatory as to why you'd run Predator on Olaf and Hecarim, but for Gragas, Predator is actually pretty strong on him because what you can do with the Predator is you pop the Predator when you're going in for the gank. You don't have to use your flash body slam then a lot of the time, and what you can do is you just walk right up to them. Once you get super close to them, then you can use your body slam or you can use your ultimate. You can even just walk up to them, use your Q, and you can just save your body slam for a very long time, and it almost makes it a guarantee gank or a guarantee kill when you do gank with Predator Gragas. So definitely I'd recommend trying it out. It does have a lot of potential, and these three junglers have been on the rise in this patch. Now for mid lane in this patch, there's not a ton that's really sleeper OP or that's popping up so far in 8.16. One champion though that's doing very well with the sustained setup is Cassiopeia. So Cassiopeia with the Corrupting Potion and Dark Seal start, along with the Time Warp Tonic and the Biscuit Delivery as your inspiration secondary, is doing great for 8.16 because one of Cassio's main weaknesses is the fact that she does run out of mana pretty quickly in the laning phase, and it limits her ability to bully the enemy out and have a lot of success in the early lane. So by running Corrupting Potion, backing for an early Dark Seal, and then taking the Time Warp Tonic there, it just gives you a lot more pressure in the laning phase. It allows you to bully a lot better, and if you can run this setup, if you can use Cassio's strong early game with this setup, then you are going to have a lot more success with her in this patch. For AD carry in this patch, I really don't think there's a specific champion that is just super sleeper OP for 8.16, but the rune setup right now that most Korean pro players are running is definitely a little bit sleeper OP for this patch, and not a ton of players in solo queue are running it. With the celerity nerfs, most pro players have swapped over to Absolute Focus as well as Gathering Storm there as their secondary runes on pretty much every single AD carry. So if you have yet to make the swap from celerity to Absolute Focus, then I definitely recommend doing it for 8.16. And then for support right now, similar to AD carry, there's just not a ton in this patch that is super sleeper OP. One pick though that I do think is pretty sleeper OP right now is actually Poppy support. With tank champions and engaged champions seeing a lot more play now in 8.16, if you can play Poppy well, I do think she can be a very strong support pick. Her W is just a great counter to a lot of the most picked supports right now. She can do well into Leona, into Alistar, into Thresh, and those are three of the most picked supports right now for 8.16. You do really need to be able to play Poppy well though in order to make her work, I think, down in the support role. If you can't time your W correctly and actually take advantage of the reason to why she counters like Leona, Alistar, and Thresh, then there's not too much point in picking her, but if you can play her at a pretty good level, then I do think you can have some really good success with Poppy support for this patch. So that is going to be all for this video, guys. That's what we're looking at so far in patch 8.16 as for some good off-meta sleeper OP picks that just aren't being played a ton right now, but should be played more, and you can have good success on them for 8.16. So that being said, guys, if you did enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you have yet to already. So thanks for watching, have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.